Well, we're coming up on that holiday time. You know, I say it's the official season, the eating season anyway, when Halloween rolls around. And next, before you know it, it's going to be Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, and everything in between. In our virtual green room, divorce attorney Melinda Eitzen is waiting. She's got a new book called Considering Divorce, Critical Things You Need to Know. And it's an interesting book because it really covers from A to Z things that often are not talked about. Like, for example, dealing with a mentally ill spouse, also dealing with the kids more specifically, some of the myths surrounding what happens with children, how to tell the children, that kind of thing. And I think that's got to be one of the hardest things that people getting a divorce have to go through in figuring out how to tell their kids, because there's no doubt, we know this by now, certainly the kids are so affected by divorce. Melinda, thanks for coming on the show.
Absolutely. Glad to be here.
So why is it that well, first of all, I've heard this. I know a lot of attorneys, and they say, family lawyers, that right after the holidays and during the holidays, and maybe it's because it's all that family time, that's when you'll see the divorce rate really spike up. More people will call your office, more cases will be filed. Is that true? Why is that?
The holidays can be a stressful time for people. We have layered on top of our busy schedules all of our holiday events. We are spending and maybe overspending, which can be a source of conflict for people. And there's a lot of alcohol flowing, and alcohol has fueled many a fight.
Boy, that's true, isn't it? And I said that it's always difficult. To me, the biggest thing is the custody issue and kids. What do you suggest in your book? How's the best way to tell children of all ages? Because, of course, it can happen when they're older and in high school and whatnot, or when they're young. What are some of the things that you should do when you're telling your children, hey, we're getting divorced?
You want to be age appropriate, and you want the parents should tell the children together. They should be united. They should plan what they're going to say ahead of time and tell the children that they both still love them. It is not their fault, and not lay blame, and the children should not witness their sadness, fear, all the normal emotions that people have.
Okay, so look for that. Whatever it is, however old they are, when you're telling the kids. One of the things that was interesting to me is dealing with the mentally ill spouse. Is that happening a lot, where somebody ends up getting divorced because they can't deal with the situation?
Mental illness is a big reason for divorce, and unfortunately, some mental illness doesn't appear until people are in their 30s or later. And therefore, they didn't have the red flag when they got married to the person. My experience is people aren't quick to divorce. They wait often too long and stay in a miserable situation. But mental illness that goes untreated, that someone refuses to seek treatment for, can really do serious damage to a family. So
what do you say, what are the best ways to do to handle that? I guess when you know something's happening, to handle it right away and not drag it out?
Definitely, and seek help. I really think you're doing your children no favors by keeping them in a situation with a parent who is mentally ill and not seeking treatment. By filing for divorce, you'll probably force that parent to get the treatment they need, and that would be the best present you could give your children.
Yeah, there you go. The book's title, as I said, Considering Divorce, Critical Things You Need to Know. What are some of the top critical things that you need to know when you're deciding whether or not you're going to finally take the plunge?
I think it's a hard decision for many people, and they should ponder it carefully and perhaps seek a counselor who they can kind of go through the mental process with. But one thing they need to be aware of is people's behavior isn't going to change if they don't take proactive steps to change it. So if they're in an abusive situation, that abuser is not going to suddenly stop abusing them, and they need to get out. And unfortunately, those are the people that stay in the longest often. The cycle of abuse is very difficult. But they should make a list of the things that they're concerned about, go to their spouse, try to save their marriage, go to marriage counseling. But if the other person's not willing to work, you can't save a marriage by yourself.
Yeah, there you go. When you put this book together, were you thinking, boy, people just, when I've done all these different divorces, all kinds of divorces, and people just don't have, I guess what you'd call a primer, don't have any idea of what they're entering into? Because to me, that's what it seems like, especially from the legal point of view. You know, you have all these things like divorce 1, 2, 3, and It seems like, especially in the state of Texas, it's drive-through divorce, I call it. And certainly there are quickie divorces in other states, too, as well. And this is a national show, and people understand what I'm saying. But does it seem like sometimes also on the other side of it that a hasty decision is made?
You're definitely right that we wrote the book because I wanted a book out there for all the things I wish somebody had told the person before they got to me, to try to save them from themselves or save them from the mistakes that are going to harm their divorce case and harm their ultimate settlement. And everyone wants to get the best deal they can out of their divorce, of course, financially and with the kids. As an example, don't have an affair. Wait to have your affair after your divorce.
Does that happen a lot? Are you dealing with that a lot? People do that. They just, well, of course, I'm probably answering my own question. It's the oldest thing in the book. You see it. Television movies are made about it. That breaks up a lot of divorces. Is that the number one thing?
An affair is not the cause of the divorce. It is a symptom of a failed marriage. And so my advice is don't wait until you're tempted and therefore have the affair to break up your marriage. Go ahead and break up your marriage if you're miserable, and then go have your affair. Yeah.
When somebody decides, okay, they're in a marriage and they've waited, it's not good, the other person's begging them to stay, there's obviously serious problems. Should the person who's filing, should they leave the house or no? How do you handle that? Because if you're both in the house.
Usually leaving is the best thing. Because, especially if there's children involved, the level of conflict is going to go up, especially at the beginning phase of the divorce. It could go up. That could be a flashpoint. We don't really want to have the flashpoint in front of the kids. So you're not abandoning your house. You're not giving up rights to a claim in your house if you leave. You're just allowing everybody to be a little more peaceful and have less conflict.
Yeah, there you go. I heard something, when we watch the economic numbers, I used to think, well, if the economy's really, really poor, maybe that's what drives people also to divorce because money has got to be. Isn't money pretty critical in divorce, that the money issues sometimes are part of the symptom of what's going on, besides, as I said, the affair thing that you just talked about, that's really the sidebar of a bad marriage? Is it the same thing with finance? Is that a top reason why?
Oh, people fight about money. They do not agree. If you lined up 10 people and you asked them how they think money should be spent, they would not agree. So it is a hot topic, fighting about money and child rearing, top two things.
Wow, child rearing too, huh? So when the economy's better, why is it, I just read something in a business mag, and actually a couple of different things, someone shot me an article from the LA Times too, that if the economy improves, so do divorces. Why is that?
More money gives people more options. If you have more money to divide between you, the person who maybe has been wanting to get out but did not feel like they could financially afford to, it is time to get out.
Time to get out. All right, so when you see these divorces, are you seeing more older people divorce, or is it across the board, or younger people? What are the majority? What do you think the main demographic is right now? Because I'm sure that changes. What's the main demographic you're seeing?
It's midlife. When people's children are grown, then maybe they hung in there for the kids for a time. The kids are going off to college, and they look at their spouse and say, "Who are you?" And I don't even like you.
Yeah, that's terrible. Yeah, awful. And that's got to be a rough time, too. That's why you're saying, because when you have to separate, you got a lot of assets and things that you have to go through, correct?
Yeah, in that case, maybe they've been together 20 years.
Yeah.
So they've had 20 years to accumulate assets or debts or both.
Is it more amicable when they've been together longer or shorter?
That really depends on the people. And whether it's high conflict or not, it's heavily dependent on their personalities and their goals. And when you do have people with a mental health disorder, it's more likely to be high conflict.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting. Melinda Eitzen, Dallas attorney. She's got that book out. Pick it up. Considering Divorce, Critical Things You Need to Know. Melinda, thanks for coming on the show.